Hey everybody, Matt Michaels here on the DeFalco Files with the owner and creator of FSW, the future stars of wrestling here in Las Vegas, Mr. Joe DeFalco. Joe, how are you doing coming into the big week of Survival of the Fittest?
Yes, it is. It's the go home week.
Uh, it's going to be at the Silver Nugget here in Las Vegas on the 21st, which is Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. You can catch it on Fight TV for $14.99. So if you don't live in the area, or if you just happen to not be able to get down to the Silver Nugget here in Vegas, please check it out on Fight TV. This is going to be a pretty. I don't even want to say entertaining card, but a pretty special card. There's going to be some matches on here that are going to really just kind of up the level a little bit. And I think to me, the first one that comes to mind is Jay Vidal trying to recapture the No Limits Championship against Matt Vandergriff. And if he can't win that match, he is done with FSW. Um, what do you think for you this match means in terms of the overall that these guys have had between each other, especially within the last 3-4 months? And what do you think that means to fans to see, such a high stakes match, which granted, championship matches in general are great to watch, but when you know that something like a career is on the line, does that up the anticipation, the anxiety, and the enjoyment of a match for fans, especially if they're there live?
Well, it's intriguing. We've had three matches in a row with those guys where Matt won the belt from Jay, and then Jay won the belt back, and then Matt won the belt back. So now it's a lot of anticipation because you can look at it in so many different ways. Oh, there's no way Jay Vidal, he ain't gonna leave FSW. He's got to win. But there's so many options that now even, that's a match you're going to pay attention to. That's
Right.
the match. A lot of people are looking forward to as the match of the night. That will be positioned in the semi-main event spot. The survival match between the champions against the faction that will close the show. So it's going to be very interesting to see, what happens in the No Limits title match. Will it be, first off, the titles never changed hands two different times,
Right.
let alone three different times. Now there's the chance for it to be four straight shows, you
Right.
know, and we're normally a company that you win the belt, there's a good chance you're gonna hold it a while, but these guys are so equal that one may have a slight advantage in one spot, but then the other guy's got the slight advantage, so you're talking about two of the hottest rising stars in wrestling, two guys that a lot of people feel they're next when it comes to who out of FSW is going to take that step to the next level. So, there's so much on the line, let alone, just the internal battle between the two
Right.
because, they both have gained so much confidence over the last year. They were both, in major tag teams
Yep.
that circumstances forced them to have to wrestle in singles matches, which we knew that they were capable of before, but now they've really, shined. Jay Vidal won the Wrestler of the Year,
Right.
but now when you go into this year, whoever wins this match is probably the heads. He's front and center. He's going to be the guy who leads the charge for the Wrestler of the Year of 2022. we're more than halfway in. At this point, the edge has to go to Matt Vandegrift. He's already beaten Jay Vidal 2 times this year. Right. Plus, he's had some big matches. He won a gauntlet match to get the chance to win the championship, and he did. So he went through 3 different people.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he's had, some other matches throughout the year that have been some pretty solid matches. He's gotten the opportunity to wrestle guys like Mike Bailey. So, Matt has definitely stepped up his game. I think, Jay is arguable too about, potentially being a back-to-back wrestler of the year, which is saying a lot. That shows a lot of potential.
I think Bryce Harrison may have been the only guy to actually win it 2 years in a row. I don't know if you have your FSW almanac handy, but guys, some of the best wrestlers that are currently in FSW are former wrestlers of the year. You got Cody, you got Hammerstone, you got Graves, you got Bay, you got Cross. It's a who's who.
Yeah, and that's, just the list like that. And again, I'd love to, we've tried to find Bryce Harrison and tried to get him to come on.
Yeah. He is really missing in action, that dude. The former dude.
I kind of like to think of him as the dude right now, just hanging out in an apartment with his robe on and, a drink and, enjoying life.
And a few ladies by his side.
Oh, man. You said, co-main event essentially here with the faction taking on TBD and Hammerstone. And do we know, is it still a surprise to the faction? And is it a surprise to TBD or Hammerstone on who that 4th person joining them is going to be?
Or will there be? I know Hammerstone and TBD are very confident in their abilities. So, they may go after him 3-on-4.
Are we gonna see Hogan come out? Is Hogan the 4th guy?
Hogan is not the 4th guy, but it could be Flair. You're starting the Horseman stable with Flair at 77. Or whatever 73. That would be. Yeah, Paul Roma's unavailable, so we're gonna have to try to see if Flair can do it.
You get Tully can manage them, so.
Yeah, I'll call Hosey and see what's up.
In terms of that being a survival match, and fans can check out. We did an interview with the faction that you'll be able to see. Look that one up. The faction had quite a few things to say about the way FSW has treated them, especially the upper management. How this show,
he had a title shot. He's in the main event. Boy, just like the Suavecitos, they've all been mistreated.
Well, I think the words about this show were that someone like Braxton has been looked at as just a mouthpiece, and that the guys are not taken. There's upper politics going on, but their main thing is Joe. They got tens of thousands of followers, and they're not champs.
Who does?
The faction. That was their reasoning, man. They got all these followers, but FSW doesn't see the value in them.
Well, everybody has an opinion. If you want to go to followers, Chris Bay's got more followers than all four of them combined. Hammerstone's got more followers than all four of them combined. So, are we going to state facts? Braxton has more followers than the other three of his faction members combined.
Right.
Braxton is able to afford to buy Twitter followers, and he's bought himself a lot. Elon Musk, I heard that's part of the reason he wasn't buying Twitter, because guys like Braxton, bought their followers. A lot of robots is what I heard. So I can't confirm or deny that.
Oh man. There's the gasoline. They said, man, they're gonna get those torches, and I got a feeling, with the gasoline going on here, man, the FSW's future could just burn to the ground with these guys if they get their power. Now, Braxton, speaking of him, he has the cash in the case. What are the specifics with the cash in the case? For instance, the match happens. It comes down to, let's say, two of the faction members in Hammerstone. And the faction, beats down Hammerstone. Hammerstone maybe picks up the win, but he's beaten to a point where he's, really vulnerable. Can Braxton cash in that case at any point? How does it work for him so that we know of the potential of him possibly cashing in at any point?
He can, all he has to do is let the referee know. But being that TBD are tag champs and Hammerstone's the heavyweight champ, he has to, inform the referee,
Right.
which one he's going for. He can't cash in and say, okay, I'm going for both belts. He can only go for one. You know what I mean? He can't
Right.
do the spot where all three members are down and then he lays on each one hoping he gets the pin. That's not how it works. He's got to specify, here, ref, I am cashing in on. And again, in that situation, who's eliminated.
Right.
If, as you say, Hammerstone's the only guy in there, then yeah, obviously he would be cashing in on Hammerstone. But if Shogun's in the back and Hero Lou's the only guy, the three, and there happens to be three faction members, they could beat his ass. And then, in the middle of a match, that's how Hammerstone won the title.
Right.
Cross was wrestling the multi-named Max Dupree, Sean Ricker, Eli Drake, LA Knight. And he got involved and he became the champion. And then it was such a great plan that the WWE stole it a few years later when Seth Rollins got involved in the match.
Right.
And that's how he won the title. So we're trendsetters, man, From Maxwell Hardy becoming a winner, people just steal my ideas.
And, recently Matt Hardy posted a picture of him and the family, and boy, seeing a picture of Maxwell Hardy now, it's just unbelievable how fast time goes, man. So, yeah, you're an innovator, and pretty soon you might be able to have Maxwell Hardy wrestling for the FSW championship because that kid's growing up fast. So.
Well, we could have the kids championship, and him and Bodie could go at it.
Sure. I would like to see that. That'd be interesting. But Bodie is going to be on the Survival of the Fittest card with those Sky Pilots, Sky High there. They're taking on, of course, the Suavecitos and Brett the Threat. What do you think, man? Is this a moment where the quiet guys can shut up the loudmouths, or if Brett and the Suavecitos end up beating Sky High and Bodie, will that cause even more of the bragging and the continuation of boasting how incredible they are?
Well, we've seen in the past that even when they lose, they talk about how great they are. So, I don't see the decision. I don't see whoever wins this match changing their their mindset. If they lose, well, then it'll be because of this reason.
Right.
So that they already all have a built-in excuse. There's no doubt about it. So.
With both the Suavecitos and Sky High, does a match like this and their performance in the match, whether it be just the performance in general or the win loss, does that affect the potential of them possibly getting an opportunity to wrestle TBD in the future for the championships?
Well, they have wrestled TBD a couple times in some contender matches and things like that, where TBD was victorious. But the Suavecitos have had the most recent title shot where they lost. You know what I mean? So it's a big match because this is a rematch from a match a few weeks ago where it looked like the pilots were going to win, and as usual, the tactics that you're always going to get from the Suavecitos and Brett the Threat got him the victory. And again, it's about getting the victory. So if it's all about the victory, then well, they won. So you can't disregard whether you like them personally or not, because most people don't, but they are highly successful. Brett the Threat has been, on a roll.
Yeah.
And, I find it amusing that he's basically called out, the entire roster. And, he wants to fight everybody all in one night. It's like, be careful what you wish for, because you never know what's going to happen. So, Brett the Threat should be looking over his back, because I saw him calling out Damien Drake, and I'm going to be watching the match with Greg Sharp and Remy Marcel and this guy and that guy. And it's like, it's cool to have, even other companies, this guy, I'm going to take out that guy. Oh, you think you're a shooter, he's made a comment, he saw Blair Brody, for September 4th, and he's put out a challenge, which would, believe me, I'm heavily contemplating that match because I think it'd be a really good match to watch. So,
yeah,
but he's gotten himself on the radar. People notice him, and, sometimes they say, hey, you got to be humble. You got to go out there and do the right thing. But, these guys have proven that it doesn't matter what they say. It's what they do inside the ring. So,
that just, I don't know if this thought has ever crossed your mind, but it's a match that I think I would love to see. Have you ever thought about the potential of filthy Tom Lawler and Brett the Threat?
I have, no doubt about it. We were in talks about doing another Natural Born Killers, and then for some reason, Cross thought it was a better deal to return to the WWE instead of wrestle Natural Born Killers. So we have to, rethink. While Cross was away, we were lucky enough to have Tom step in and help run the show. So,
that begs to ask the question of, Raw Underground was very similar to that concept of Natural Born Killers. You think you could talk to your boy Cross there, and maybe we could see, a little bit of the Joe DeFalco influence on the WWE, and get a Natural Born Killers type show going in the on the Peacock, I guess would be the perfect place for it.
Yeah, I think Triple H is doing all right. Maybe I told Cross to put in the call for Freddie Prinze Jr., who wants to start his own thing. So, I think me getting in on the ground floor of that would be, a big help. And
Absolutely.
I think I could bring something to the table.
I think anyone listening, if you have any contact with Freddie Prinze Jr., maybe float the idea of Mr. Prinze contacting Mr. DeFalco, and we can
I'll help him out.
make some magic happen. Uh, when you look at this card, you have Greg Sharp defending the Nevada State title against Damien Drake. What do you see in terms of both these guys have matured over the last 2 years? Great, just leaps and bounds, very greatly. Do you see any advantage on either guy? Obviously, they've been around each other, but they really haven't worked each other to the point where they know each other, like AJ Vidal and Matt Vandergriff, who are very familiar with each other over the last couple of months. This is a new challenge for Damien Drake. At the same time, Greg Sharp, I think with the chip on his shoulder, does he even view Damien Drake as a threat?
I think Gregory Sharp, without a doubt, he's seen, the rise of Damien Drake, who's been with the company for a very long time, and he's had a, hugely successful run. So, this is the first year that Gregory Sharp has become a champion. So, he doesn't want to let that go. He was a little upset that Damien Drake was instilled as the number one contender. I know he's never been a champion before, but I guess he didn't realize that he didn't decide who he was going to wrestle on every occasion. Being that he wasn't scheduled to work and he decided to give an opportunity and pulled the name out of the hat, which was crazy that the same guy was in the hat 47 times. So, but that's not how it usually works. And Damien Drake has proven himself to be a number one contender. He beat Matt Vandergriff, who's now the No Limits champion. And, I believe that, since December, Damien Drake's undefeated. So, why wouldn't that guy be worthy of being a number one contender?
When you look at that idea, Greg Sharp has this title as his first one at FSW, yet Damien Drake was a tag team champion, was a No Limits champion, and now is getting the title shot here. I mean, does that put any pressure on Damien Drake to win this title because of the fact that he hasn't held it? He's had the title chances, he's been champion, and in all honesty, he should be able to step into this match and win the belt from Greg Sharp without any question or doubt. But in his mind, do you think that might be just something that might be kind of an obstacle to get by? And that is, hey, man, I've been champ. I've been there. And will he go into the match maybe a little underprepared for a guy like Greg Sharp, who's kind of off the handles and could go nuts at any moment.
Well, Damien Drake has been in the locker room with Gregory Sharp for years. So, he's seen how he's evolved. Now, Damien Drake, of course, if you look at it as they say on paper, and if there was odds on that match, you might give the slight edge to the champ because he has to actually lose. But it's
Right.
a pretty even match. So there's always pressure because if Damian Drake doesn't win the match and doesn't win the championship, well, when's his next opportunity
Right.
to get a championship? He's not in a tag team. You know, he's a guy who feels, No Limits title was great. And does he want to go back with Vandegrift and Jay Vidal? But he has evolved in his career that he's looking at, the heavyweight championship. He's
Right.
looking at different things to excel his career. It says a lot more when you're the Triple Crown champion or the Grand Slam champion. To win a belt you've already won. Again, that's awesome because there's so much great talent. No matter what, winning a title is a big deal.
Right.
And the thing is, he hasn't had the opportunity as successful as he's been. So, as you said, okay, is there pressure? Well, he feels he should have had a title match, but he hasn't, as successful as he's been.
Yeah.
So, if he loses, why would he get another one so quickly? You know what I mean?
And with him, would you say his style right now more of a Marty Jannetty or more of a Shawn Michaels?
I guess you could say it's Shawn Michaels. But again, people joke and say Marty Jannetty, but Marty Jannetty was fantastic wrestler. If he didn't have so many issues,
Yeah.
he could have been as successful as Shawn.
Yeah.
Shawn had the issues, but he was able to, I guess you could say, curtail them. Other than when he was in Syracuse and had to get through 23 guys and lost his smile. But after that, and once Bret Hart was out of WWF, he felt a lot more secure in his position. It's funny, you talking about when you're saying about the confidence and the things like that. It's amazing how in wrestling that you see some of the guys that are the biggest stars in wrestling, and even like Ric Flair, that they need to be told like, hey, I'm really appreciative that Vince McMahon put me back in the video, that they
Right.
feel somehow that all their success doesn't matter anymore. So I guess it's the "what have you done for me lately" thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And out of mind, out of sight. So going back to Damian Drake, he's won matches, and who's he beat? Well, he beat Matt Vandegrift. He beat Jordan Oasis. He's beat everybody who's been put in front of him. But it won't matter if he was 100-0 and he loses to Gregory Sharp. You know, Everything he did before makes no difference. The fact that he won the No Limits title, the fact that he was the tag team champion and then got hurt and then feuded with his buddy, and everything that happened. And now all that stands in front of him is Gregory Sharp. And if he loses, well, then it's back to the drawing board. Where do you go?
You just brought up an interesting point, and I want to see what your perspective is on this. So, with fans, there tends to be a kind of that same "what have you done for me lately" kind of mentality, and especially because we went through the long nightmare of you know no one in the stands because of the pandemic. I think that a lot of times the past kind of starts to fade, and people kind of forget that Damian Drake was a champion, especially No Limits champion now being some 3 years out from that time. Does it stick in the mind? Do you think do the wrestlers kind of have to have that mentality of I have to continue to do something now because of the fact that if I don't, the fans might forget about me or at least my accomplishments. And isn't that essentially what it's about is making sure that you're remembered for those accomplishments and the things you've achieved so that, the fans will continue to support you and enjoy you, and also you have that resume going forward to show other people who might be in the bigger companies looking to hire you. um, what is that difference between a wrestler having the mentality of going forward and achieving but yet still trying to keep relevant with the fans so that aspects of their career are not forgotten?
Well, it's funny, you talk about how guys need to be humble and guys need to, do the right thing. But the most successful guys need to have that chip on their shoulder. They need to look over their shoulder and see who's coming,
Right.
because I've seen so many guys that were at this level and then they kind of plateaued. And it was a good level, but it wasn't the level of what a Cross or a Lacey or a Bay or, those guys had done. And you can't be content with, you know, being successful locally. Hey, I get to drive to California and I've won some titles there. It's like everybody has to have that chip on their shoulder because they can easily be forgotten. You can be the darling, and then all of a sudden, a Jay Vidal or Matt Vandegrift become, this hot commodity that, people are like, oh, and now all of a sudden, oh, well, what about me? I'm really good. And it's like, yeah, but, they're that fresh talent. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And speaking of, kind of doing that in terms of getting yourself out there and being a champion in other states, you know, we're seeing the heartbeat kind of starting to beat around the West Coast. And Nick Xander just won his third championship against your boy, Evan Daniels in Arizona.
Yes, Evan Daniels gets the mention on the DeFalco files.
What does it mean to you to see what Nick Xander is doing outside of FSW, and B, what does it mean for a guy like him who is going to be wrestling at Best in the West, and then arguably one of his biggest matches he's ever had in FSW is at Survival of the Fittest the next day against Clutch, who Clutch isn't going around to other states right now, isn't making any title defenses. He's focused on Nick Xander. Could this be kind of a trap for Nick if he doesn't play his cards right? And we might see the same beatdown that he got last time after the match. Clutch might do it during the match.
Well, I know Nick Xander is young, but hopefully he's learned from his mistakes. And it's great to want to celebrate your victory, but after a guy comes back after a year away and loses a match, and you turn your back to him, especially to somebody like Clutch, probably not the wisest decision. And maybe you could chalk that up to the rookie in him. Big match, big win, anniversary show, Silver Nugget, packed house.
Yeah.
He just beat the guy who said the future is pretty dim at FSW. with the young talent and basically taking a shot at him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I'm pretty sure the blinders are off, and Nick Xander is going to be prepared for whatever Clutch has in store for him. Because, knowing Clutch, don't be surprised if there is, a trick up his sleeve.
Well, that brings up an interesting point is, within the last couple of months, we've seen a lot of Clutch, but we haven't seen old Sugar Brown. Is that something Nick needs to kind of keep in the back of his mind? Is that, you know, Sugar Brown might be lurking somewhere in the shadows?
I guess it's possible. The first time Clutch called him out, I know Nick Xander looked under the ring, so he was kind of prepared at that point. But as time has passed, and it's been Clutch and Xander and things like that, I think it's easy to forget. I'm not even thinking of Sugar Brown, but you brought it up, so that would probably mean other people are thinking, hey, Sugar Brown haven't been seen. What does it mean? I guess you better show up on Sunday and see for yourself.
Yeah, and again, let's be honest. Sugar Brown could be enjoying his AARP right now and sitting back because he's what? He's about 52.
I know he just celebrated his birthday. Yes.
Um, then I know last time we talked last week, we kind of talked a little bit about the potential of a women's match. Do you have a women's match planned for this card?
It looks like we're going to be doing an intergender tag match.
All right.
I'll have more details. We're trying to finalize one of the spots, but we do have that plan. So it's going to be an intergender tag match. It looks like.
Excellent.
Unfortunately, a few, Rochelle Riveter, who we expected to be at the show, newcomer to FSW, she'll be in a wedding in Colorado, so she is unavailable.
Right. Right, which is great. I'm glad she gets an opportunity to, see friends and have a nice little weekend. But it's disappointing. I think fans are starting to get to know her a little bit here in Vegas, and we'll be very happy to see her once she's back in town. Um,
Yeah, definitely a great addition. Had a good match against Aviva Van, and also showed herself very well in the three-way matchup for the opportunity to wrestle for Viva for the women's championship. So, Viva will be back. She's got a big prior commitment that she will have to obviously take. So we had a change, but she will be here September 4th. And right now, at the next High Octane, we're, still figuring it out, but we have some returnees. Milo will be back, and Gypsy Mac will be back, and Johnny Robbie, who's been making a lot of waves on the West Coast, Alice Blair. So, the women will be representing for sure on September 4th. And Maserati's sniffing around in the background.
oof, oof. We know that Maserati's in Brooklyn this weekend, so not only is she sniffing around, but man, she's still got that whole map of the United States kind of. She's circling it, man, and it looks like Maz is making her big move to kind of take over women's wrestling across the country, which is pretty damn exciting. One of the hardest workers, would you not agree? One of the hardest workers to get where she is from where she was.
Yeah, to be honest, I thought she'd be a career valet and, and a hugely successful one. But, she's another one who was not content with what she was doing and where she was at. And she went out there and, without a doubt, from where she started to where she is, maybe one of the most improved women's wrestlers, and I'll put Viva Van right up there. That they were a couple that I didn't be that impressed with, and now they're two of the best, around. So,
yeah, I mean, I think at this point, what does Viva Van have? Something like 7 titles
I
right
think
now?
5. I think 5 because she was in the hot tub with 5 belts, I think.
Which was a popular movie too, if I'm not mistaken, from back on the VHS days in the 80s, if you know what I mean, Joe.
Oh, I was thinking a hot tub time machine, but
Oh, um, when we look at the 21st, anything else on the card that I missed?
Yeah, we got our number one. After Matt Vandergriff and Jay Vidal, we need to find a new suitor to challenge for the championship, and we got a couple of guys that have been around FSW a lot, and I like them a lot. Brandon Gatson and Wise Guy, they're stepping back in after an injury. Eli Everfly is back, and I'm excited for that. And a guy who's kind of changed his ways recently, but he's had a lot of success, Jordan Oasis. So that 4-way scramble to decide who's going to get an opportunity next, very interesting.
Yeah, that's really quite a good mix of talent in there. And when you look at a guy like Jordan Oasis, Brandon Gatson, Eli Everfly, Wise Guy, very diverse in terms of styles. It's going to be interesting to see how each of those guys approach this match because of the fact that just very different in terms of high flying versus groundwork versus just power. It's going to be very cool to see. With Eli finally getting the rest, seeming to be healthy again, does that open the door? Do you think that we'll be seeing more of him in FSW? Because I know you're a huge fan of Eli's.
Well, we had been using him pretty frequently, and then he had got banged up, and then he came back, and he had another tremendous match with Jay Vidal. He was all set to go AEW weekend, and the injuries just piled up because that was an event. He was going to work the GCW shows.
Right.
We had him, booked for the Luck of the Draw Thursday. We had him booked for the FSW Revolver show. So those were 3 shows that at least he would have been on, and probably would have been on Black Label show. So, he's a guy that you just think of, he can't be hurt, but obviously, you do a lot of crazy shit, and sometimes things don't go the right way, and you need to take time off, and sometimes the biggest mistake is not taking the time off. It's
Right.
like, I talked with Juicy, who was taking some time off, and I hit him up, and then I had to message him again. I'm like, what's up, bro? You ghosted me? I hit you up, see what's going on. And, he's still a little bit of ways. He's obviously, when MLW calls, he's there, but he's really limited what he's been doing over the last couple months. Just, trying to, make sure he's in the best place possible. So, those doors are always open for guys like that. So, we're looking forward. It's kind of like in baseball, sometimes the best trade isn't a trade. It's, Jacob deGrom coming back from injury. And
Yeah.
now all of a sudden you got, one of the best players in the game. And it's the same thing by inserting Eli Everfly or inserting Juicy into the mix. You just upgraded your entire roster.
Right. And I think that's another person in the match, Gatson, who kind of falls a little bit under that category of kind of just banged up and burnt out a little bit. And now look at him coming back and how much attention he's gotten over the last year. It's wonderful to see. Uh, when you look at his history with FSW, and I know he's another guy you're been high on for years. Um, do you think that Ganson might get a little more opportunities if he's available for even some potential bigger guys like a Hammerstone? I don't know, have those two even ever wrestled before?
I don't think so, but I don't know for sure. But most people that are newer fans over the last 3, 4, 5 years, are not aware that Brandon Gatson is a former FSW No Limits champion. So, he at the time, was a guy that, highly respected. We liked a lot. And he has gotten himself in the best shape of his life.
Yeah.
So
it's impressive. It's very impressive.
Yeah. And it's like he, along with some of these other guys who've had like a career renaissance, and it's guys that we used in the past, Ryan Taylor and Tito Escondido, that, they've produced awesome stuff for years, but never seemed to be noticed by the bigger guys. And then late in his career, Ryan Taylor was active in 2009 when we had first booked him. So, it's 2022. Now, obviously, Ryan Taylor got a little bit of love with Ring of Honor, but that still wasn't more than 2-3 years ago. So, and in 2009, he was wrestling already. So he's probably about a 15-year vet who took 12 years to get on the radar of people. I remember when Global Force Wrestling came to town, and, I procured a nice relationship with Sanjay Dutt, and he would be, active when he was looking for guys that he felt my opinion mattered. Obviously we brought Cross to the table, and Jeff Jarrett was, so excited with them that they had him lose to Bobby Roode in 3 minutes and take away his shine. But other than that, when they needed a tag team, I let him know, sent them stuff about the Whirlwind Gentlemen, and they got booked on the show because of that, and I remember giving him, some guys to take a look at, and Ryan Taylor was one of them, and, that was a while back, that had to be 8-9 years ago, and, Tito's another guy that I've been high on since day one, whether it was singles or with Che. We had him, up until last year, and then he punctured his lung, and it kind of, stopped the momentum, part of the MK Army. He came back. We obviously saw how good he was. We had him, beating Graves in a match. You know what I mean? So it's like, obviously we had, the thought of Tito being the guy to possibly, but we needed him to be around more to challenge Hammerstone for the championship. And there was actually some talk of Tito becoming a champion actually at the anniversary show last year, and then he got hurt. And, we never really got that momentum back. He came back at Natural Born Killers, and Gatson's another guy. Now, Tito's in Japan as we speak, and Gatson's a guy who's, first it's LA Fights, But now he's working for the big boys. When GCW comes to town, they're utilizing him. So, it's great to see that these guys with, super talent are being, noticed by the other companies.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very rewarding, and it also allows for guys like Hammerstone or guys who sign with like an MLW the opportunity to still be able to do the independent shows. Do you think that is something that is, I don't want to say necessarily something guys should always think about, but in certain cases, do you think that when guys are getting offers and starting to get looks from companies that have a little bit more money, a little bit more national, that's something that they should take into consideration is where they are in their career in terms of if they still feel the need that they should kind of get out there and grow a little bit more, to be aware of that when they're signing a contract, to know that they have that flexibility to continue to work every weekend, as opposed to I've got a contract and my main focus is just this company now and that's it.
Well, you could do that, but, for your growth as a professional, let's take, another guy that we brought into the mix who was pretty inexperienced in Toa Leona. And, he was a guy who, whether there was people coming from California or not, he was driving himself down because, Sefa Fatu told him, you need to get into FSW. And he did what it took to get into FSW. Well, then he got an opportunity to be used at AEW. And, he was always, keeping me up to date, letting me know, and, gave me a call to tell me that he was signing. But he let me know the terms of the deal wasn't a lot of dates guaranteed. So when they moved him to the Ring of Honor side, they really haven't utilized him. And right. I've noticed, I saw he got to work Cross at PCW, and he was working for Dom. And, we're talking about possibly doing a Mecca October 23rd, being that Impact's in town the 21st and 22nd. Need to talk with Sammy Callahan again because the crew's going to be out here. So let's utilize that. And Toa is definitely a guy that when we were looking at, who would be a really good fit to be the next FSW heavyweight champion, he was extremely high on my list because, he was a big guy who listened and wanted to get better and, appreciated being in the ring, with a Hammerstone and getting to work with Sam Adonis and all these guys and EC3 and Graves and, being as inexperienced as he was. If he didn't tell you he'd only been wrestling for X amount of time, you would have never believed it. Yeah. You saw a little bit of the greenness, but the talent overshadowed everything. Right. And, generally we look for a guy with character. And he was a guy who, hit me up, always wanting critiques, didn't care if it was bad. It's kind of the old, let me know what you think of my match, and be offended when you tell him things that maybe weren't that good. And, right. People listen to everybody in the back, and, other workers and students you work with, I'm pretty sure almost nobody, maybe the trainers, of course, but guys you work with, oh, that was fucking great. Oh, man, fucking awesome. And it was like, dude, the match sucked. Like, right. Or the match was mediocre. It's like a person does not get better when you don't tell him what he's doing wrong. If I do something wrong, odds are I'm going to do it wrong again and again until somebody tells me that I'm not doing it right, or maybe this is misplaced, you know. Like I know at the last show, Kenny was around, and Kenny's extremely valuable when he's around, but he's a busy dude, Not only does he have other wrestling, gigs that he has to go to, but he has a life. And, going to Future Shock or a High Octane, isn't always in the cards when, you just came off the road and you need to spend time with your family, your friends, whatever, So when he comes out, or D-Lo, when he's around, he'll still come around, even though he's got the Impact thing. That's the one issue we got. All the guys that might show up at a show, if Impact's running, well, we're shit out of luck, know. So at the last show, Kenny was there. Chris Bay was in the office, watching the matches, and critiquing people, and hey, letting him know what he saw, and people value that, especially like a Chris Bay, who's the guy who started from scratch and very quickly climbed the pro wrestling ladder. So, it's great having those people around because they're not going to sugarcoat shit.
Yeah.
And, I guess it comes from a different place. When Joe DeFalco tells you something, oh, yeah. But when D'Lo Brown tells you, or Kenny King tells you, or Chris Bay tells you, or Sin Bodhi tells you, or Cody or Remy or the guys that have been, or Hammerstone, maybe you perk up a little bit. Maybe you learn. I'm going to assume Fresco learned a little bit by being in the ring with Kenny King recently and being in the ring with Hammerstone. Those were great opportunities for a young wrestler.
Yeah. And and Fresco made it clear that he beat Kenny King over and over. I think his words was, I beat Kenny King. I beat Kenny King. I beat Kenny King. So, but, not only is it experience, but a little something to hang your hat on. So very, very good, network of people to work with, to evaluate your work rate, as long as you're willing to listen. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that we're seeing a number of people who are willing to listen and learn. And I think that's something that's invaluable, especially in this day and age, where a lot of times social media feeds your ego a little bit more than the reality of where you are in your success. And you're left with, never elevating because you are being fooled into thinking you're one place when you could be much further. As we go here and start getting ready to wrap up, any final thoughts going into this weekend, and anything else you want to share with the listeners?
Well, Survival of the Fittest, I'm trying to find exactly when we started it, but I know in 2013, that may have been our first. So we have had this, I guess you could say, traditional show for at least 10 years. And there's so many things that have come out of it. So it's like, it's always exciting. I was always a big fan of the Survivor series. So we always try to get some of these kind of matches going and mixed in with a bunch of different stuff. So it's like, it also moves forward as we get into our final event, which, of the year, which is Against All Odds, which is the Rumble, where the winner gets the shot at the title that night. So it's like, it's just continuing everything. And, we got a lot of big things happening. The faction, they're eyeing both titles. Well, now's an opportunity for them to prove that they're deserving of getting those title shots. Ice Williams had the shot. The faction tag team had the shot. Braxton's got the case. So all four of those guys are in position to be champions.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure with the crew from Dre's, with Ice and Braxton, they're going to be in full force. I thought they were going to riot after Ice lost at the anniversary show. You know what I mean? So it's going to be, interesting to see. And then we're going to see, the rookies like, well, not a rookie anymore, but Nick Xander, in a high pressure situation. You know what I mean? And we got a number one contender scramble match, and we're going to have an intergender match and, a rematch. So, and then the Nevada state title, will Damien Drake be the first Vegas born Nevada state champion or Nevada born,
Yeah, Nevada state champion. Yep. Yeah, it's exciting. And again, tickets are available, especially if you don't order them in advance. You obviously can, get tickets at the door. It's at the Silver Nugget. It's the 21st at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Again, if you're not in Las Vegas or if you can't make it out to the Silver Nugget, Fight TV, $14.99. Get to see the pay-per-view. And
the link is already up. Just got it from Fight TV.
Nice. So, and again, if you're not familiar with some of the guys, this is a good opportunity to check out some of the homegrown talent at FSW because, one of the biggest things is if you don't take the time to, get to know some of these guys, 5 years from now, when you're sitting there and you're watching AEW or an NXT or a WWE show, and you go, I thought I heard of this person. I want to find out more. Then you're kicking yourself when you realize, oh man, 5 years ago I could have started following this person back then and watching them grow. And a great example is, of course, Lacey Ryan, who
the new NXT Women's Champion. Oh wait, we're filming this before, so I'm going out on a limb. Since we filmed this Tuesday afternoon,
right?
I don't know,
right?
But I'm going out on a limb. I actually got a message this morning, from your former trainer.
I got the message as well. I got the message as well.
You go. So he told us to watch.
Yep.
He hopes something big happens.
Yep.
But I think he's kayfabing us a little bit.
And he's also there for backup too, just in case, Toxic Attraction tries anything. Tom Howard going to step up and make sure Toxic Attraction doesn't get involved.
There you go. I heard he brought some of his students. I heard Heidenreich's going to be there just in case.
I got to reach out to John, see how he's doing. Oh man, John.
What correction? What institution is he at?
Knock on wood. I think he's not right now.
Oh, okay. I heard he was at Arkham, so I don't know.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Hugo Strange has done wonders with him.
I wouldn't put it past him if he, was friends with a Harley Quinn or a Joker. Man, what a fascinating gentleman. He's something else.
Yes, words can't describe him.
He's a good dude. He was always a good dude. It's an exciting time, and August 21st again, 5 p.m. Pacific time, Survival of the Fittest at the Silver Nugget here in Vegas. And Joe, good luck on the show, and we'll talk about what happened next week.
Yeah, hopefully I'll survive another show.
The survival of the DeFalco. That's
right.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.